So this is teaching for women. So Christian women. In Malachi 3, Jehovah says, He doesn't change. So Jacob, his servants, knows his judgment, and they shall not be consumed. He changes not. Okay? The Son who came in the Father's name told you in John 5 that he could do nothing of himself but what the Father had shown him to do. He was prophesied by the prophets. Moses in Deuteronomy 18:15 through 18, that Jehovah would rise him up and Jehovah would put his words in his son's mouth and give the people commandments. He would give them everything desired at Horeb in the day of the assembly. Deuteronomy 5, the 10 Commandments, which he fulfilled in Matthew 22, verse 36 through 40. Isaiah the prophet in Isaiah 42:21 said Yeshua would magnify the law and make it honorable. He magnified 2 laws in the Old Testament in the law. What he's prophesied to do, Deuteronomy 18, and I will send him in my name, and I will put my words in his mouth. Right? Jehovah is going to put his words in his son's mouth and give us commandments. And whoever doesn't listen to that prophet who he sends and what he commands, Jehovah will require of us. Love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, Deuteronomy chapter 6, to keep the 10 Commandments. He quoted verbatim Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 5. His Father's commandments, what was desired at Horeb in the day of the assembly of the covenants, Deuteronomy 5. And if you do the commandments, it will be your righteousness. Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 25. And to love your neighbor as thyself. Love your neighbor instead of stoning them to death. Leviticus 19:15 through 18. Rebuke them of their sin, so they don't suffer sin upon them. Love your neighbor by rebuking them. I am the Lord. Magnifying those 2 commandments in the law. Jehovah changes not, so Jacob is not consumed. Malachi 3. Hebrews 13, verse 8. Yeshua is the same today, tomorrow, and forever. John 5, he can do nothing of himself but what the Father had shown him to do. John 14, these are not my words, but the Father who sent me, fulfilling prophecy in Deuteronomy 18 that Jehovah would speak through his Son. Jehovah doesn't change. The Son doesn't change. So you know his judgment. So Jacob will not be consumed with fire. Isaiah 65 and 66. John 14:15. Yeshua says, if you love me, keep my commandments. He gave you 2 commandments from his Father's law in the Old Testament. Deuteronomy 6, the 10 Commandments, Leviticus 19. If you love me, keep my commandments, and I pray to the Father to send you another comforter, the Spirit of truth, that will teach you all things so he can abide in you. He tells you that 3 times, and then he tells you, if you don't keep my sayings, you do not love me. Acts 3, verse 18 through 24. Therefore be converted so your sins can be blotted out in the times of refreshing of the covenant that America, the land of the pride, Ephraim, would not hear in Isaiah 28:12. And it proceeds to quote Deuteronomy 18, what Moses prophesied that the Messiah would give them, would give us. The refreshing of the covenants, and whoever doesn't listen to that prophet who Jehovah will send will be consumed, will be destroyed from among the people. Malachi 3. Jehovah doesn't change, so Jacob, his servant, is not consumed with fire on his return. Yeshua doesn't change. But 2 Thessalonians 2, the man of perdition, Yeshua tells you in John 5, verse 42 and 43, I know you don't have the love of God in you. 1 John 5, for this is the love of God, to keep his commandments, and they're not grievous. I know you don't keep the commandments of God, because you say, burden of the Lord, that his commandments are impossible to keep. No one can keep them. You don't keep the commandments. I know you don't have the love of God in you. I came in my Father's name, Yeshua, Joshua, high priest, Joshua, Zechariah 3, Revelations 5, his English name. You didn't receive me, but there's going to be one that comes in his own name that you're going to receive, the false Messiah, the opposite himself of Jehovah. 2 Thessalonians 2, man of perdition, oppositing himself of Jehovah, who sits in the temple because you're the temple and you've asked him into your hearts. Jesus Christ, the one that came in his own name, a Roman Greek god, Apollyon, child of Apollyon, son of perdition. 2 Thessalonians 2. The children of perdition have Jesus sitting in their hearts, the opposite himself of God, because they say Jesus is God, that is worshipped above God. That's your 2 Thessalonians 2, man of perdition. You say Jesus is God and that he changed everything. He changed the food laws. He made all things clean. He came and did away with sin. You don't have to keep the commandments of God anymore. He changed everything. Now you're saved by lasciviousness, Jude 1:4. Unmerited favor. You just got to believe. And you can worship using pagan idolatry, Jeremiah 10, Jeremiah 7. You can eat things sacrificed unto idols. You can mix the profane with the holy because you're saved by lasciviousness, undeserved favor. You don't have to keep his Sabbath day because Jesus is your Sabbath. It's no longer a perpetual covenant, a mark between him and his children. Exodus 31, verse 16 through 18. There no longer remains a rest to the people of Jehovah, opposite of Hebrews chapter 4, verse 9, that says there remains a rest, a Sabbath. That rest there means Sabbath to the people of Jehovah. You don't have to keep the commandments to enter into the kingdom, to have right to the tree of life, oppositing Revelations 22:14. That says that those who keep the commandments of God have right to the tree of life and are able to enter into the gates of the kingdom. Jehovah doesn't change, so you know his judgment. Yeshua doesn't change. He didn't change yesterday, today, or forever. He changes not, just like his Father. And his words were not his, but the Father who spoke through him. That doesn't change, so you know his judgments from the beginning of the book to the end of the book. He changes not. He searches the reins of the heart to see who will obey him. For he gives those who obey him his spirit of truth, the Holy Ghost, Acts 5:32, John 14, and he will abide with those people. They have the Father's name written on their foreheads. In Revelations, 144,000. They don't have Jesus written on their foreheads. They have the Father's name written on their foreheads. Because Yeshua, the true Messiah of the Bible, glorified his Father in everything that he did. He gave honor to the Father. He did the Father's will, not his own will. He could do nothing of himself but what the Father had shown him to do, what the Father sent him to do. He finished the works that his Father gave him to do. And Jehovah doesn't change. You guys are so delusional. It tells you that he gives you up to your own reprobate minds, your own delusion, and Romans 1 and 2 Thessalonians 2, because you turn the uncorruptible God into an image of a corruptible man. You're Jesus Christ, the man of perdition. Revelations 13, the image made unto the beast. 666, Chi Zay Stigma, Christ pierced on cross, your false Messiah, the many Messiahs. There's 46,000 different versions of Jesus Christ with 46,000 different denominations with all doctrines of men that break the commandments of God, oppositing themselves of Jehovah. That you worship with your hands, doing different traditions of men. You flattering him with your mouth with a lot of praise and worship, but you don't do what he says. Because you say you're delivered from those commandments. They're a burden, Jeremiah 23, because you listen to your Jeremiah 23 pastors, the wolves in sheep's clothing, that tells you that he changed everything. He's made all things clean. So Isaiah 56 or 65, Isaiah 65 and 66, you will be consumed with fire because you didn't obey the Son unto salvation. Hebrews chapter 5 verse 9, for eternal salvation is given to those who obey the Son. He's the author of eternal salvation for those who obey him. Lord, Lord, haven't I done many miracles in your name? Haven't I casted out demons in your name? When Yeshua warned you there's going to be many false prophets, many false messiahs that come after him that will deceive many, deceive the world with lying signs and wonders, 2 Thessalonians 2, in the name Beelzebub. Jesus Christ, there's power in that name, you guys say. He came to me in a dream, fulfilling Jeremiah 23. An end time prophecy, because it tells you that they won't even mention the first Exodus. Because there's going to be another Exodus, much greater, that they won't even mention the first one. And Jeremiah 23, a future prophecy. Because 2 Thessalonians 2 tells you the churches fall away. There's a falling away first, and then the man of perdition will be revealed, who is being revealed by his servants who surname themselves Jacob, whom he turns iniquity away from in Jeremiah 10, that are not like them. They don't do the Christmas tree. They don't do pagan idolatry. No, they rebuke it. They warn others to not do the sin unto death in 1 John 5, idolatry. Little children, keep yourself from idolatry. It makes you deaf and blind, Psalms 115, 135. But you would rather worship the creature more than the creator. So he gives you up to your own reprobate minds to do things that are inconvenience. Romans 1. You've made altars to sin, so many altars will be onto you to sin. Christian women, wake up. You have a lie in your right hands. Go read Psalms. I'm going to look it up. Psalms 109, verse 6. The children of iniquity, the children of perdition, he puts Satan at their right hand side. If you read Psalms 109 through 111, you can have Yeshua at your right hand side, who doesn't change, and the Father doesn't change. Those who have the commandments written on their hands. Deuteronomy 6, what Yeshua quoted when he said to love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. Keep the commandments in your heart, teach them to your children, bind them on your hand for a sign, and it will be your righteousness. Following the Lamb wherever he goes, abiding in his love as he abided in the Father's love. For this is the love of God, to keep his commandments. For this is how you love the children of God, when you keep his commandments and they're not grievous. You can have Yeshua at your right hand side, abiding in you if you love him and keep his commandments. John 14, Acts 5:32. Or you can have Satan, the man of perdition, at your right hand side. Jesus Christ, who opposite himself of Jehovah. When Jehovah doesn't change and his son came to do his Father's will, the Father spoke through his Son to give us the same commandments, what he desired at Horeb in the day of the assembly, Deuteronomy 5. Oh, if they would have a heart in them to keep my commandments always, he says. But they transgressed after Horeb at Mount Sinai. They transgressed his holy covenants, making a golden calf when Moses was up on the mountain at Mount Sinai. And then they were given the handwriting of ordinances, handwritten by Moses in a book, and as a witness against them because of their transgression, until it would be finished, until the seed should come. Deuteronomy 31:24, Galatians 3:19, the handwriting of ordinances that the Son of God would finish and nail to the stake in Colossians 2:14, and then bring them back to the covenants at Horeb, what the prophets told us in Deuteronomy 18:15 through 19, giving us everything desired at Horeb in the day of the assembly. Magnifying 2 commandments in the law that Jehovah will require of us, because he doesn't change and the Son doesn't change. But you Christians say he changed everything. Why is that? I don't get it. I don't understand why you guys cannot see this.